One of the more frustrating things you can be is ambitious and yet lazy at the same time. Because I know what I want, I can picture the kind of life I'd like to have, the things I'd like to make, and the places I'd like to go, the things I'd even like to be good at. And if you gave me 20 minutes, I could probably make you a fairly convincing plan for how I'm going to get all of that. Following that plan on a random Tuesday afternoon is apparently where things begin to get more difficult. Some days I feel like I want to do everything, yet other days doing anything feels like a negotiation with myself. And those two versions of me don't really make sense together. If I'm genuinely ambitious, shouldn't I want to work towards these things? But I've been looking at it the wrong way, because wanting the result and wanting the process are two completely different things. And ambition might actually be part of the reason I keep getting stuck. The version in my head. I've always associated laziness with not wanting very much. Someone who is content doing nothing doesn't really have a reason to feel frustrated about it. So if I was constantly thinking about what I wanted my future to look like, I assumed that meant I couldn't really be lazy. Except, obviously I can, and I prove that to myself almost every day. The problem is that ambition mostly exists just inside my head. The future version of my life is incredibly easy to work on because it doesn't require me to do anything yet. I can imagine being good at something without going through the period where I'm terrible at it. I can imagine finishing a project without sitting through the boring middle part of it. I can imagine having more freedom without dealing with all the fairly uninteresting things that I have to work on that might be required to create it. In my head, I'm only really experiencing the highlights or the final finished goal. But real life contains a lot more boring Tuesdays, and I think that's where the gap appears. Ambition asks what I want in 5 years, but actually getting there asks what I'm willing to do for the next hour, and those are very different questions. It's quite easy to answer the first one with something impressive, but the second one might just be sitting down and doing something you don't particularly feel like doing. And there's nothing exciting about that. Which is probably why planning something can feel so much better than starting it. Yes, I can reorganize a schedule, watch something about becoming more productive, decide what I'm going to do tomorrow, and somehow finish the evening feeling like I've moved forward. Even though the thing I was meant to do is still sitting there in the corner, untouched. Maybe I'm not actually lazy. The strange part is, I don't even think I'm lazy all of the time. There are things I'll happily spend hours doing. There are things I can be ridiculously consistent with, and there are days where I get through everything I wanted to do and wonder why I ever struggled with it to begin with. Then a small 10-minute job will somehow survive on my to-do list for 4 or 5 days, maybe even a week, and sometimes even a month. Which makes me think that calling myself lazy is maybe too simple. Maybe I'm just much better at doing things when I enjoy the process, when there's some structure around me, or I've already built enough momentum that starting doesn't feel like a hard decision anymore. It's when I'm left completely on my own without something difficult and no immediate consequence for avoiding it. I often find my only true motivator to be pressure, and that's mostly for a deadline at work or an upload deadline on this channel. So things start getting pushed into tomorrow. And tomorrow is incredibly useful. Tomorrow has unlimited time and unlimited possibilities. I'll be well rested. Nothing unexpected will happen tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll apparently wake up as the most disciplined person who's ever lived. But then tomorrow becomes today, and for some reason that person didn't turn up. They never do. This doesn't mean everyone who's ever procrastinated is secretly incredibly hardworking. Sometimes I am just straight up being lazy. Sometimes I know exactly what I should be doing and choose the easier thing anyway. I don't really want to invent a complicated explanation that lets me feel better about doing nothing. There is a difference between being incapable of effort and repeatedly avoiding a certain kind of effort. And for me, the thing I seem to avoid most is starting something when I know I can't do it properly. And that's when ambition becomes the problem. This is the part I didn't really expect. Sometimes being ambitious almost makes me lazier, because if I decide something matters to me, I immediately create an ideal version of how I'm supposed to do it. And if I'm going to work on something, I should give it a few uninterrupted hours at least. If I'm going to learn something, I should have a proper plan. If I'm going to start a new routine, it should start on Monday, not on Tuesday or whatever. Do it properly and then never miss a day. And once that's the standard, doing a little bit seems almost pointless. If I haven't got 3 hours, why bother doing something for 30 minutes, even though I could probably get it done in that time? If I can't do it properly today, I'll do it properly tomorrow. And suddenly this huge amount of ambition has produced absolutely nothing. 0 in my head is apparently better than doing a bad version, which, when you say it out loud, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I've noticed that most things I've actually managed to stick with didn't begin with some perfect version of me suddenly appearing. They usually started much smaller than I thought they would. You do something once, then again, you miss a day, yet the day after you come back. Eventually it becomes normal enough that you don't need to convince yourself to do it every single time. And that when you do miss something, it's not the end of the world and you have to restart from day one. And once that happens, the thing that used to require motivation just becomes something you do. I think ambition makes me want to almost skip that part. I want to go straight from deciding I care about something to being the person who's already good at it. But there isn't really a shortcut between those 2 points, not a meaningful, long-lasting one at least. There's just a fairly long stretch where what you're doing doesn't look particularly impressive. The boring middle. I think I've spent a lot of time assuming ambitious people must enjoy working hard all of the time. That they're somehow waking up every morning desperate to spend 8 hours doing difficult things, because their goals matter more to them than mine matter to me. Maybe some people are like that, a very rare few, but I'm definitely not. Most of the time, I don't think progress feels particularly ambitious while you're making it. It just feels ordinary. You read a few pages, get past the boring parts, and you practice the same thing again. You just give 100% to the thing you've been putting off. You spend 40 minutes working on something that nobody else will never know you did. Then you wake up the next day and you're basically the same person. And that's quite a difficult sell compared with imagining what your life could look like 5, 10, 15 years from now. But I think that's probably the point. Ambition feels like big moments. Most progress seems to happen on completely forgettable days. And maybe I've been measuring those days against the wrong thing. 30 minutes doesn't look impressive next to the person I want to become, or at least I think I can become. It looks a lot more impressive next to doing nothing though. I don't think I need to stop being lazy in this sense. The obvious conclusion to all of this would be that I need to become more disciplined, wake up earlier, make a better schedule, stop wasting time, force myself to work harder, faster, more efficiently. And yeah, maybe sometimes I do, but I don't really want to spend my life treating every moment where I don't feel productive as some kind of character flaw. I like doing nothing sometimes, just to relax. I like having days where I don't achieve very much. I don't think every hour needs to be converted into progress towards something. That would sort of defeat the point of wanting more freedom in the first place. The problem isn't that I enjoy being lazy. It's when I let things I genuinely care about keep moving into the future where I imagine I'll suddenly find them easier. Because that future version of me isn't coming. I'm still going to have days where I don't feel like doing anything. I'm still going to choose the easy option sometimes. I'm still going to make plans that are far more ambitious than the person responsible for following them. But maybe I don't need to fix that contradiction completely. Maybe I just need to stop requiring every bit of effort to match the size of the ambition behind it. The future can stay big, dream big always, but today's part can be small. And I think I'd rather be an ambitious person who does a disappointing 30 minutes than an ambitious person who's still waiting for the perfect 3-hour uninterrupted window. Because I can spend as long as I want imagining the person I could become. At some point though, unfortunately, one of us has to do something.